But the main thing I wanted to show you here is we just did a fib for your very, very short-term trade expectations on ADA, right? Literally just, we did a fib on like an intraday move, right? From 2:30 this afternoon Central Time to, oh, that's not right. Hold on, I have my, what is this? My Mexico City, I'm Mexico City. Apparently I'm Mexico City time. But okay, so I'm sorry. We did our trade from approximately 8:30 this morning to current time, right? About 5:30 or 6:30 Central Time. So this was like basically a fib line that was drawn over the course of like today. What I wanted to kind of like just make sure that you understood, and that I think is super important, is that these things should be viewed, depending on what you're going to do, they should absolutely be viewed in bigger picture time frames too, right? So this is a 4-hour chart, and if I was looking at something similar, like when do I maybe go and do something here, it would just be drawn on a much bigger scale.
Okay.
Right. So I just, that's kind of all I wanted you to know is like, okay, here's the 4-hour. Pretend we were like right here, right? I'm going to zoom in, but pretend we dropped from right here to like right here. Like technically there was a moment in time when this did become a really intense trend. I mean, this is hindsight, but you can still see kind of how the fibs maybe worked in some instances. Really, we were not ready. Here's kind of where I think some thinking has to take place, no matter how you slice it, right? Here we could say, oh, it kind of worked. I mean, it was technically an entry that was just before that green line, which is the 0.5. So in a way, it kind of worked, but it wasn't super precise. It didn't go like right to the line. It would have had to have been lower leverage that would have done a better job. But as we shifted, and as the 4-hour kind of became bearish and it became a little more obvious what was happening, we can see that this move did drop when it finally kind of peaked right here in down pressure, and it came back up. It actually stopped right at the line. Like, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if it comes through clearly on your screen,
Yeah, no,
but it stopped. Yeah. It stopped right at the line, and this is what it does a lot of times. Like in the trade we were just looking at, I was kind of saying that, right? Is that it'll stop and then it'll retrace, and temporarily it'll respect that level. It'll respect that red, but only temporarily, and then it goes back to another level. And in this case, this must have been an overall aggressive drop for this particular asset, right? Like whatever time this was of on the 25th. This was a particularly aggressive drop. But I think it's really, really cool to note. Let me get rid of some of this stuff so you can see it. I think it's really, really good to note that you had a couple different reasons that was actually probably a really good short right there. And you can see that one was, that was right where we had some crosses, right? We had the movement monitor crossing. We had the movement monitor turn to blue shortly after. We had the 21 EMA, which is that white line, the 21 exponential moving average. So a lot of times those are good, good places to like at least be looking for an entry. But it happened to coincide with this little orange line, and it didn't go all the way. And that's what I mean by a lot of times you're better off being a little less greedy and just having it just before the line, right? Or in this case, just before the line, and just using less leverage, like a 3x leverage or something instead of a 10. Because the problem is a 10 has to be really tight and have a lot of asymmetry. So it has to go like right here, and then your stop loss has to be tight. So your stop loss probably has to be here. And so you need this perfect little move. And if it doesn't happen, then one of two things happens on a 10x leverage. it either quickly blows through your stop loss and it wicks over here, and so your stop loss didn't catch it, or you were too greedy and you needed too much precision, so the move went here and then it didn't go all the way, or it went here almost and it didn't go all the way. And so it's a lot easier to catch those on assets when you have lower leverage, whether it's 2x, 3x. And the way I kind of look at it is if you start winning with 2x and 3x, that's where those belt levels come into play. I think we say if you win like 30% of the time consistently, then you should move to the next one if you want to. I think it's good to play the game with higher capital and lower leverage, like 5x or lower, and just really, really try to play the precision game, but try to catch, these really awesome moves. And if we go back, so you can do either one. And I kind of mentioned it's really good to know when to use lower capital, higher leverage, when to maybe go all in with somewhat higher capital, higher leverage, but still not crazy high, but just like a little higher than normal. And then it's good to know when to use, low capital, high leverage. Like, this is crazy and it's choppy, but at the same time, I'm going to try $100 at 20x leverage, and I'm okay if I lose $100, and I'm going to play that game. But other than that, I think that that's a great example of one that went, right to the line. If you look at it, it started right about there, and then by the time we hit that first line, it kind of like went perfectly. And if I drew it a different way,